Once again, another French Prime Minister, Sébastien Lecornu, has resigned just 27 days after taking office, making him the shortest serving Prime Minister in modern French history. But this isn't just about the fact of 7 Prime Ministers, 7 in 8 years. It is about a country in chaos, raising a couple of important questions like, why did Lecornu resign so suddenly? What's causing this political turmoil in France, and most importantly, can President Emmanuel Macron survive what many are calling the biggest crisis of his presidency? Hello and welcome, you're watching the Karan Chronicles, and this is my take on the biggest political crisis of modern France. Reviews on October 6th, France woke up to another political shakedown in their country. Just hours after announcing his new cabinet, Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu resigned, ending his tenure at barely 4 weeks, 27 days to be precise. The French presidency confirmed, and I quote here, Mr. Lecornu has submitted the resignation of his government, which the president has accepted, quote unquote. It was stunning, even by the French political standards, and I am being very careful when I say this. Lecornu has just reshuffled his cabinet the night before, keeping most key ministers in place. His team, his cabinet, was supposed to meet for their first official session that very afternoon. But instead of holding that particular meeting, Lecornu decided to walk out, leaving France without a functioning government yet again. So the big question is, what went wrong? The roots of this political crisis in France run deep. Since Macron's re-election in 2022, French politics has been trapped in a deadlock. His centrist party lost its majority in parliament, creating what experts are calling a hung and hostile legislature. That means any new prime minister, no matter who, can barely pass laws, budgets or reforms without being blocked by rival parties on both the left and right part of the spectrum. Lecornu's cabinet announcement triggered immediate backlash from the opposition. Opposition parties across the spectrum, from Marine Le Pen's far-right National Rally to Jean-Luc Mélenchon's far-left France Unbowed, threatened a no-confidence vote to topple his government before it even began. Even allies were unhappy. Some said his cabinet was too right-wing, others said not right-wing enough, and caught between this impossible expectations vicious cycle, Lecornu gave up. In his resignation speech, he blamed quote-unquote partisan appetites and the refusal of the political fractions to compromise for the greater good. It was nothing short of an admission that the French government under President Macron has become almost ungovernable. Lecornu's fall is just the latest in a string of political collapses under President Macron. Since 2017, Macron has appointed 7 prime ministers, more than any French president in the modern history. His previous prime minister, Francois Bayrou, was ousted earlier this year after losing a vote of no confidence. Before Bayrou was Michel Barnier, who lasted only 3 months, and before him was Elisabeth Borne and Gabriel Attal, and others, all becoming victim to the same political instability in the country. And the problem? Macron's gamble. In 2024, after losing the European parliamentary elections, President Macron called a snap parliamentary vote. His hope was to regain the control of the parliament. Instead, this whole thing backfired spectacularly. France ended up with a more fragmented parliament, making governance even more harder. Quite the opposite what he thought of. Now Macron faces an impossible choice. What is his choice? Appoint yet another prime minister who will likely face the same fate, or dissolve parliament and call fresh elections, risking an even stronger opposition in the country. But France's crisis isn't just political, it is financial too. The country's public debt has soared to 113% of GDP, one of the highest in Europe after Greece and Italy. Its budget deficit is nearly double the EU limits at around 5.8%, and the Lecornu's job was to push through an austerity budget, cutting spendings to stabilize the economy of France. But with no parliamentary majority and rising political anger in the country, it was a mission doomed from the very beginning. Investors are already nervous now. The Paris Stock Exchange fell over 1.3%, becoming the worst performing market in Europe the day after his resignation. The euro also slipped against the dollar as uncertainty deepened in the country. Experts now warn that this could become France's worst political crisis since 1958, when Charles de Gaulle redesigned the French Republic to ensure stability. Dear viewers, ironically, the very system built to prevent chaos in the country is now struggling to survive it. So what now for President Macron? What is he going to do? He's resisting calls to resign, something unprecedented under France's Fifth Republic. But pressure is mounting on him. Marine Le Pen's far-right national rally says Macronism is on its feet, quote-unquote, urging him to either resign or dissolve parliament immediately. The far left, led by Macron, is preparing a motion to remove Macron from office. They are going a step further. They are not urging, they are putting things into action. If Macron does resign, it would shock France and its market even more. But analysts say that this is unlikely. He's not going to resign. Instead, he's expected to appoint yet another prime minister, someone who can at least buy him some time until his term ends in year 2027. Names like Oliver Faure, Catherine Vautrin, and even Bruno Retailleau are being floated in the political corridors. But whomsoever takes the job will face the same storm again: a fractured parliament, an angry electorate, and a president running out of political oxygen and political goodwill. Dear viewers, the bottom line here is that France, the very birthplace of democracy and the revolution, the Great Revolution, now finds itself in a quite civil war of ideas, a system unable to agree on how to move forward, how to save the country. 7 prime ministers in 8 years. This is a big statement. Political paralysis, mounting debt, falling markets. The question now is no longer just who will be France's next prime minister. It is, can Macron survive long enough to finish his term that ends in 2027? And perhaps the bigger question, is France's Fifth Republic itself beginning to crumble?